Here we back again, man. Now, the reason why I started this series is because it gives me an opportunity to drive my point home when I always say that life is about power. It's not about morality. Life is not about playing fair. Life is not about democracy. Life is not about equality. Life is not about any of that idealistic BS they've been talking to us about since we were children. Life is about power, man. Whoever's neck you gotta snap, whoever's head you gotta crush. In order to get to the top of the mountain, you better do it, because the adversary, you better believe they doing it. We all can't be number one. We all can't be the world champion. It can only be one, and it's either gonna be you or it's gonna be me. And I want it to be me. That's the mentality you gotta have, because at the highest levels of power, that's the mentality. It ain't about playing fair. If your people gotta suffer in order for my people to live good, then that's what it's gonna be. That's the world that we live in. I know we got a vision of what we want the world to be, but I live in the reality of what the world really is. I don't get focused. I don't waste time thinking about how I want the world to be, how I wish the world would be. I only talk about what it really is. I talk about what it is. Now, let's get into some of these headlines coming out, man. As you know, I've been talking about the coup in Niger. I've been dropping some excellent videos, giving my analysis. You know, I'm not making any predictions. I'm just reading the headlines and I'm just examining it with you, man. I got as much information as you do. But let's get into it. As you can see, take a look up on the screen. The French Foreign Minister, Catherine Colonna, said the coup leaders in Niger had until Sunday to hand over power. Now, as you can see, I know black nations are independent on paper, but there are two things. There are two levels of independence. There are what you call your political independence, which is really symbolic. You know, you have the freedom and independence to hold elections and look like you're independent. And then there's economic independence, which is a true independence, economic and military independence. That is the true independence. The vast majority of black nations are not truly independent, because if you are truly independent, a white woman all the way in Paris couldn't just wake up on a random Saturday afternoon and say, you have until this deadline to do this, or else it's going to be gunplay, or else we send in the shooters. Now, listen, man, this is what life is about. I told you, life is about power, man. You are disrupting my interests. You are disrupting my economic and political interests. So therefore, I'm giving you until this deadline, or I'm sending the goddamn assassins. I'm sending the shooters. I'm sending the goons. That is what life is about, man. That is what life is about. I know they told you that bullshit up in church. You know, life is about, holding hands and being a good human being. Life ain't about that, my man. Life is not about being a good human being. Life is about securing prosperity and success for your women and children. That is what life is about. And however you gotta do that, you better do it. Whoever's head you gotta crush, you better crush it. Whoever's neck you gotta snap, you better snap it. That's my opinion. That's my opinion on life. Now let's continue. The French Foreign Minister, Catherine Colonna, met with the Niger Prime Minister, Mr. Mahamadou, and the Niger ambassador in Paris on Saturday. Now, I told you, if Niger was truly an independent nation, they would not have to go run to the former colonial power after they got overthrown. Why is that the first place you ran to? If you are truly an independent nation, that is a sovereign nation, that is not under any foreign domination. How come the first place you ran to was Paris? How come the first place y'all ran to was Washington, if you are truly an independent sovereign nation? Why is that? Why is that the first place you ran to? Is that what our forefathers did back in the day when there was internal conflict amongst the kingdoms? They ran to the Portuguese? No. They handled those beefs internally. They went to war internally. But if you got to run over to the European, obviously you're not fully independent. Obviously you're not fully self-sufficient. Obviously there's a higher power that is backing your play. Obviously there's a higher power that is backing your agenda. And you are working in lockstep because you share mutual interests. And I don't fault France for operating how she's operating, because France has operated this way for as long as we've known France. The Francophone black man has been at war economically, militarily, politically against the white Frenchman for centuries. The beef between the Francophone black man and the white Frenchman is everlasting. It's never ending. So when we see conflicts like this happening, bro, it's just another chapter in the book. It's just another long chapter in the book of the long-standing history and beef between the Francophone black man and the white Frenchman. Now, let's continue. This gentleman, Mr. Mahamadou, the one that went to Paris to go meet up with the French government, as you can see, he served as the Prime Minister of Niger from the 3rd of April 2021 up until the 26th of July 2023, until he was overthrown in the wake of the 2023 Nigerian coup d'etat. Now, as you can see in these Western publications, they're still referring to the overthrown politicians in their political titles. They're still referring to Bazoum as the president. They're still referring to Mahamadou as the prime minister, even though they are deposed, but they are still acknowledging their legitimacy. Now, let's continue. On Friday, ECOWAS said its military chiefs had agreed on a plan for a possible military intervention in Niger. All the elements that will go into any eventual intervention have been worked out, said the ECOWAS commander. These included the resources needed and including the how and the when we are going to deploy the military force, he added. The coup leaders themselves have also warned that they would meet force with force. Mali and Burkina Faso, where the military leaders have taken power since 2020, have warned that any regional intervention would be tantamount to a declaration of war against them. The West African bloc, ECOWAS, prepares for military action as Niger coup deadline looms. The defense chiefs deliver ultimatum for Sunday after the mediation fails to reinstate the elected president. Given its uranium and oil deposits and its pivotal role in the war with Islamist rebels in the Sahel region, Niger has strategic significance for the United States, China, Europe, and Russia. So goddamn, listen, they didn't just mention France. They said it is a strategic asset for the entire continent of Europe, bro. Yo, bro, they didn't say US, China, France, Russia. They said, listen, the whole continent of Europe needs that shit, bro. Let's continue. Under the plan for military intervention, the decision of when and where to strike would be made by the heads of state and would not be divulged to the coup plotters. Now, as you can see, take a look up on the screen. These are the military chiefs of ECOWAS. I believe this picture was taken after their meeting sometime yesterday, where they discussed how they were going to, grab the AK-47, grab the assault rifles, and basically bum rush Niger, invade Niger, run up in their whole shit, just, laying everything down. Just, you already know what time it is, bro. Gangster shit, bro. Gangster shit. Gangster shit. When diplomacy fails, when negotiation fails, gangster shit. Now it's time to bleed. That's what life is about, bro. That is what life is about. And that's why I'm glad this has given me the opportunity to drive that point home. Life is not about morality, equality, democracy, equity, none of that shit. Life is about power. And if anybody stands in the way of your power, you make them bleed. That is what life is about, my man. Now let's continue. The Nigerian president, Tinubu, told his government to prepare for options, including the deployment of military personnel, in a letter read out to the country's Senate on Friday. Senegal also said they would send troops. Yes, indeed. I spoke on that as well. The Senegalese foreign minister, she already let it be known that, whenever they're ready, she ready. She ready to send troops. They're ready to go into the Sahel. They're ready to go into Niger, and they're ready to, get it popping. They're ready to shoot it out. Now, let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. This will be the first time in years that ECOWAS will try to forcefully put down a coup in West Africa, which has seen several successful coups since 2020. The events of the last 2 days make it more likely that this military intervention may actually happen, said Nathaniel Powell, an African analyst at Oxford Analytica. And if they offer resistance to an ECOWAS intervention, this can turn out to be really catastrophic. ECOWAS would be doing so as a split family, with 3 other regimes, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Guinea, choosing to side with the junta. Now, to be honest, this is just shameful, man. This is just shameful because think about it, brothers. Think about it. Imagine a world where different factions of European countries are going to war just to defend the interests of African multinational corporations. Imagine there was an alternate universe where everything was in reverse, right? It was just, everything was upside down. It was in reverse. Imagine a bunch of European nations going to war, mobilizing for war just to defend the interests of African multinational corporations. They're willing to fight to the death just to protect the interests of some multinational corporations that black men own overseas. Think about that, bro. Think about that. Don't you want that type of power? Don't you want that type of power? Well, listen, you got to understand life is about power, not morality. And maybe one day you could have that type of power once you get your mind right and have the right mindset. You got to have the mindset for power. Obviously, the Americans, the French, they obviously have a mindset for power because as soon as you threaten their interests, they're not sitting here trying to pray for you. They're not sitting here trying to argue with you, go back and forth with you, trying to reach a common ground with you. No, they're trying to make you bleed. That's what it's about. If you go against my interests, it's time for blood. That's what it's about. Now, let's continue. With the population of 25 million, Niger is West Africa's second largest country in terms of landmass, spanning over 1.26 million square kilometers, 100 times more than that of Gambia, where ECOWAS last intervened militarily in 2017. On the front line of efforts to reverse the coup in Niger is its longtime ally, Nigeria, which currently holds the chairmanship of ECOWAS. Nigeria has West Africa's largest military of 223,000 personnel, 22 times that of Niger's 10,000. And 4 times that of Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, and Niger combined. In Niger, some believe the military intervention might involve airstrikes, but with Bazoum still in detention, he could be both a bargaining tool and a shield for the junta. An intervention force coming over land from Nigeria would have to cross a swath of mostly unoccupied land that hosts more than 200,000 refugees who have fled violence in northern Nigeria, further complicating any military deployment. So, I mean, this is truly a shame, because if this military invasion does take place, it would be a conflict that's fought amongst mainly men of similar ethnicity or similar spiritual orientation, right? It's going to be a majority Hausa Fulani affair and a majority Islamic affair on all sides, right? I thought, like, what happened to the Brotherhood of Islam? What happened to, my Muslim brother is my brother? You know what I mean? So, like, I don't understand. It's like all that goes out the window for the Western powers. So, the brotherhood based in Islam, the brotherhood based in shared ethnicity, all that goes out the window because of some American and French multinational corporations. This is truly shameful. But I'm going to keep watching it, man, because I told you, life is about power, man. Life is about power. Stop talking to me about morality, democracy, equality, and all that bullshit. Life is about power, man. Now, let's get back into it. Take a look up on the screen. The latest military takeover amid a resurgence of coups in West Africa has been particularly concerning for the West, which saw Niger as its last remaining strategic partner in its counterterrorism fight in the Sahel. Listen, that counterterrorism fight is just cover for, listen, we need to keep close eye on the uranium and the gold and all the natural resources that continue to pop up, man. Listen, don't worry about that, man. You think these rich white men back in Europe give a damn if black men, black women, and black children can live in peace? Man, they don't give a goddamn. As long as that bank account remain fat, as long as the profit keeps stacking high to the sky, they don't give a goddamn if you starve to death. And that's the reality of the matter, because like I told you, life is about power, not morality. Sorry. Anyways, let's continue. Niger also matters to the global market on various fronts, including its 5% share of the global supply of uranium. Even the best case scenario from such an intervention would leave ECOWAS troops stationed in the country as anti-coup forces for what could be a lengthy period. That doesn't look good for democracy, both for the country and the region, said Powell with Oxford Analytica. That would make Bazoum look like he is only a president because of foreign armies, and that is going to destroy his legitimacy. Listen, the legitimacy has already been destroyed, because when the government was overthrown, who was the first people that they called? Where was the first place they ran to? They ran to Paris and they ran to Washington, right? So if you were really a sovereign nation, a self-sufficient, self-contained, independent nation, how come the first place you ran when the temperature got hot was Paris and Washington? Because it is Paris and Washington that were the true sovereign rulers of Niger. They were the true presidents of Niger. They were the true kings of Niger. So that's why they had to go run back to the real kings for assistance, right? Because when you are a figurehead, when you don't really have any true authority, you have to run to the person who really has the true authority whenever the temperature gets too hot. Because back in the day, our forefathers, when they really had authority, you don't think there was coup d'etats in pre-colonial Africa? There was a bunch of coup d'etats in pre-colonial Africa. But the African kings, they didn't go run to the European kings for assistance. The African kings mobilized their troops for war. They said, what? Okay, bet. I'm going to mobilize my supporters and I'm going to see you on the battlefield. That's what it's about. But when you're not a legitimate government, when you're propped up by foreign adversaries, you don't have any supporters to ride for you. So you got to go run down to Washington and France because you don't have any backing of the people. You don't have any backing. You don't have no backing. That's why take a look up on the screen. The military junta, they got the support of the people. If Bazoum was really the legitimate leader, he would be able to mobilize a crowd as equal as the junta, but he can't. He got to go run to Washington. They got to go run to France because they are not legitimate. You are backed by foreign actors. You are not the sovereign rulers that are chosen by the people. You don't got the support of the people. And in order for democracy to work, you got to have the backing of the people. And Bazoum, you don't got that. The Bazoum administration, you don't got that. But I'll admit, one thing that the Bazoum administration does have, you do have the backing of the regime in France and the regime in Washington. Now, even though you're a figurehead, that's still a lot of that is still some powerful friends to have. I'll admit that. Even though you're a puppet, even though the Western powers got their hands so far up your ass, their fingers are popping out your damn esophagus, you are still backed by some powerful people. So I'm not gonna rule you out. But I gotta tell it like it is, man. I gotta tell it like it is. So I'm gonna be watching the situation closely. You know, I'm gonna report on it, man. You know, I'm gonna report on it. I hope it doesn't have to go to war, because for black men, like I said, black men of similar ethnic stock, black men of similar backgrounds, black men of similar spiritual orientations, and as men who share the same ancestors, it would truly be a shame to see black men going back and forth, spilling their blood, losing their life, just to protect the interests of American and French multinational corporations. It would truly be a shame, brothers. It would truly be a shame. I hope it doesn't have to come to that. But like I said, when interests are being threatened, when the political and economic interests are on the line, sometimes blood ends up getting spilled, because that's what life is about. Life is about power. It's not about morality. Now, it's your boy Neferkari Desalegn back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in the ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching me blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage. I got business, this is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you in court. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.